Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs with Valor. In this video, we're going to talk about coercion versus consent. Let's go ahead and get started. Lately in this country, I've noticed there's a massive lack of knowledge on basic civics, and I think a lot of this is due to the failed educational system. You may ask, well, Reid, how can you say that it's failed? Well, a lot of reasons. I've taught high school for 3 years, public high school. I taught at very poor high schools. I didn't teach at the ritzy, pay-to-play ones. Not that I have a problem with school choice at all, but as a former public high school teacher, I can tell you that many of my colleagues were underqualified and incompetent and quite unknowledgeable about many things. Now, one of the problems that we have is that the younger generation that comes before us, people in their teens, 20s, and even early to mid-30s, we seem to recognize that they do not have basic knowledge of civics. The government of the United States of America rules by consent rather than coercion. At least that's what it says in the Declaration of Independence. We have the right to life, right to liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Now, though Thomas Jefferson did borrow from John Locke's second treatise on government, let me elaborate on what this means. We have a right to life. That means we have a right to protect it. We have a right to use firearms in order to protect our rights. Not only is this true in the Declaration of Independence, well before the Constitution was written and the Bill of Rights added in there. So this right to life, this right to preserve our own lives, and the use of deadly force if our lives are threatened would be there without even being in society. It's what's considered a natural right. Natural right means that we have these rights by the gift of the creator of heaven and earth and virtue of our humanity by itself. This is not including any government whatsoever. If we were in nature, this would exist. And this means that our rights are protected not only from other people, but from governments trying to take advantage of that. And I find it ironic that so many on the left, and by you leftist people, I mean you big government statists that want to try to tell other people how to live by force, it always is funny to me because you're almost like petulant little children when your arguments happen. Guns bad, guns bad, guns bad. No, you're bad. And here's why you're bad. Because your style of government, and I mean socialism and communism and totalitarian, authoritarian dictators of the 20th century and certainly before that, but last century alone, your governments killed almost 180 million people excluding war. This would be coercive government policies like gulags, concentration camps, things like that. Getting rid and liquidating of political opponents because they had been disarmed. So I understand your little game, so does a lot of people watching this video right now. They understand what your game is, and they understand that arms control equals silencing of the political opposition. That will never happen in the United States. We have tens of millions of veterans out there that will not let this happen. We have tens of millions of people out there who believe in their children and their grandchildren. And in the event that you do try to get rid of our firearms and our weaponry, you will be resisted. And I've been saying this for years, and I want you to listen to me very carefully. The most violent people in this country haven't gotten violent yet. If you think your little soy boy beta cucks running around there in the little black masks, if you think they're violent, you haven't seen what violence is. I've seen what violence is. I have friends that have seen what violence is. And there's all kinds of veterans out there, law enforcement, police officers out there that know what violence is. You little people don't know what violence is. The right to liberty. That would mean that we have the choice to exercise our life free of government consequences, provided that we're not harming anyone else. Liberty is an amazing thing. Liberty means that we can have 2 or more consenting adults, 2 or more individuals that involve themselves in a voluntary transaction independent of government. Now, there is no coercion here. This is all voluntary. This is all consent. If I sell my vehicle to somebody else and we agree to those terms, there doesn't need to be a third party involved in this. This is a very simple concept. Yet the people on the left certainly don't understand this. They don't understand that you don't need a daddy or a mommy anymore once you become an adult. So what they love to do is involve government in this process. They love to involve people that want to tell you how to live their life or to pay them a fee for somehow facilitating your life. I don't really see how this works because it's certainly not facilitating of life. There are policies, every single one of them, and you can go down the list of which one of their policies that they advocate for, whether it's universal health care, whether it's the Green New Deal, whether it's gun control, pick whatever pet topic that they love to talk about, whatever week it is. And every single one of those involves coercion. There's absolutely zero voluntary interaction whatsoever. If I don't want to Pay taxes, see how that works out for you. You know, if I don't want to pay into Social Security, I would go to prison. I don't believe that you or anyone else watching this video is responsible for my retirement. I'm responsible for my retirement. I fund my own retirement every single month. And I'm not asking a single person to fund my retirement. If I had a choice and you had a choice, were you asked about Social Security? Did you get asked whether you wanted to pay in it or not? No. It's funny enough, it started as a voluntary program and then of course became mandatory voluntary. So that's how they get their little foot in the door. So when we're talking about policies, I don't allow them not even 1 inch into the door, because I know eventually that they're going to come in and take everything over. You can't give them an inch. Last, pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness is an amazing thing. And of course, pursuit of happiness, when Jefferson meant it, he borrowed from Locke, which would be life, liberty, and property. Property means we have the right to acquire, improve, and develop property according to our own situation. Property doesn't necessarily only mean land. Property can mean your clothing. Property can mean your money. Property can mean your time. Property is a very flexible word when it came to the founders and members of the Enlightenment. So when we have those things, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, the governments are instituted amongst men in order to secure those rights. But I've got a question for you. What happens when government becomes not the ones that secure those rights, but the ones that violate it? What if you had an entire section of people in this country that wanted the main violators of those rights to be government? Well, then my argument would be you're no longer governing by consent. And I can tell you this with 100% sureness, that my family, my ancestors, and many of your family ancestors watching this video have fought people that tried to violate those rights, and not just a long time ago. They have stood up and fought them very recently. All you have to do is read a history book. All you have to do is look at stories from just maybe even a decade or so ago, maybe even sooner than that. But I'm here to tell you guys this, that you need to start understanding that the entire purpose and aim of the Constitution of the United States is to bring about a system of government that is based on consent, not coercion. Leftism, big government, totalitarianism, yes, socialists, and that's a horrible word if you actually look at what it is. Those people, their entire methodology is based on coercion. And if you don't believe me, disagree with one sometime and see how they react to you. You know, here at Valor Ridge, we focus not only on the firearms aspect of things, but we focus on history as well. I believe a well-rounded mind, well-rounded knowledge of history with a large breadth of knowledge is absolutely essential to understand what you're fighting for. Yes, we fight for our family. Yes, we fight for our friends. But we also need to fight for those principles that made this country great. And I can assure you this, that as long as I have breath in my lungs, I will do exactly that. And if you found this information helpful, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Facebook, that link is down below. And if you want to learn how to fight with your firearms, and more importantly, why, come on out to Valor Ridge and we can help you. This is Reid Henrichs with Valor Ridge reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.